The world is always branding us, telling us who to be, what to chase, what success looks like. But Jesus tells a different story. Not about image, but identity. Not about popularity, but purpose. Following Jesus means letting go of the old and stepping into something new. This is a story of choosing to follow where God leads.
Man, what is going on? What a start to session 2. Excited that we are continuing to just rock and roll through this weekend. But hey, really excited with who I have here on stage with me. If you have not met this woman yet, she is amazing. This is the wonderful Ramon, former PTSM student, current freshman in college. So hey, why don't you tell a little bit, if you're...
A little bit about myself? Yeah. Yes, as Cody said, I am a freshman. I attend Abilene Christian University. And I am a kinesiology major for sports and recreation management. It is okay if you don't know what that is. It is a very niche major. But I've attended every high def before this, and this is my first time leading a group of 6th grade girls. So yeah.
This is why you take water up on stage in case that happens. But cool, so hey, awesome. What, as people are continuing to get to know you, is something that people would be surprised to know that you love?
I have a lot of grandma hobbies, guys. I sew, I crochet, I don't drink coffee, I drink tea instead. I make a lot of quilts, probably as many of your grandmothers do, but I'm also really into Formula One.
Oh,
That's
okay.
my one, not grandma.
I was like, that doesn't feel very grandma-like, though, to be super into Formula One, but I love it. So obviously, like you said, grew up here. Former student,
yes.
Attended a lot of PTSM. What's your favorite PTSM memory?
I love camp, love high def, love all those events, but my favorite memory is actually when we gave the rail a big refresh. A bunch of volunteers came up one day over the summer and we built a bunch of furniture, did a lot of organizing, and just getting to talk with everyone and spend time together was really fun.
Dude, I remember that. It looked completely different that next Sunday when we had that time, but so going into your story a little bit, right? It was just this time last year, you were a student sitting in one of these chairs, attending, right? Now you're here leading, which is great and fantastic, but it wasn't that long ago that you were a middle school and high school student in the shoes of our students that are here. And so how would other people have described you back when you were a middle school or high school student?
Definitely shy. This is a crazy place for me to be, especially even months ago. If you told me I'd be on stage, I'd probably laugh. But I was a very shy middle schooler, slowly grew confidence throughout high school. And then I would hope they'd call me helpful and supportive and there for them, my friends.
I love that, right? I think all of us are like, yeah, we want to be helpful, supportive, encouraging, and stuff like that as well. But I think it'd be fun to also know, like, I'm sure I know you well, so I know that your friends probably would describe you in those ways, but what are the things that they would roast you a little bit about? What are the things that they'd like to tease and poke a little fun for who you are?
My friends back home do not know a single thing about sports. They couldn't probably tell you the difference between like a free throw and a touchdown, I'm gonna be honest. But because of that, when we would go out to eat dinner, when we would be at our host home for church, or even when we'd be at a home hanging out, I would always be sitting watching a game. If there's a game on, I'm watching it. Don't even bother trying to have a conversation with me if it's not about the game. So
that's great. I love that. So I want to dig a little bit deeper into your story here a little bit, because you touched on, obviously, like you were saying, like big athlete, grew up playing sports all your life. I know softball was a big sport that you were in. I grew up in school playing football and basketball, so you understand also, I understand, I know a lot of you guys understand the locker room dynamic. Conversations there, like we were talking about a second ago, not the most uplifting and encouraging places, but filled with a lot of judgment specifically. And so in those situations, being in those rooms with that kind of conversation going on, have you yourself ever felt the pressure that comes from hearing judgment happening to be better, be smarter, be more spiritually sound, and almost kind of put on a front of a false version of yourself because of the pressure that you felt through judgment?
Yeah, for sure. I had a very judgmental friend group in middle school and going into early high school. These are people that I did everything with. I went to school with them, I went to church with them, we hung out outside of school together. And these were my people, but they were very, very negative. They were always speaking very terribly about others, never had a kind thing to say, really. And even outside of that, my one escape was softball. And there, even in the locker rooms, You hear your teammates kind of talking bad about one another in the corners, and then you're thinking, oh, if they're talking bad about them, what are they saying about me?
Yeah, and I like that you bring up that point, right? Because at first you're just kind of talking about, hey, I'm in circles where I hear judgment happening, but then it makes you question, well, if we're talking about other people behind their back, when I'm not there, are they talking about me behind my back, right? And so in those instances, like, what did you do to not get sucked into that? Like, what did you do to not get sucked into adding to the conversations about judging others, or not, trying to subject to the pressure that would come from judgment, but choosing this posture of really humility is what it is. And so how did you navigate that?
It wasn't perfect. It definitely didn't start that way. I've probably said judgmental things. I've definitely joined the conversation. But once I kind of became aware of that, you feel this shame, this guilt, this desire to be better. And the first step in that is just being quiet. If you can't speak up, if you can't say, hey, let's not do that, just don't participate in the conversation at all. And then once you slowly gain that confidence in yourself to speak up and go, hey, we're not saying this anymore, that's not kind, let's change the conversation. Let's not talk about them like that. So changing convo, and then even if it gets to that point, removing yourself from the situation fully, being like, hey, if this is how we're gonna talk, I don't wanna be talking with y'all. And maybe that looks like a big change, maybe that just looks like a small change.
Yeah, and I love the trajectory that's on there, right? It's not just like, oh, judgment's happening, hey, I can't be friends with these people anymore. But first, like, hey, let me make sure that I'm not adding in anything to this conversation. And then, like, getting the boldness, kind of like we were talking about last night a little bit, right? Making the risky choice instead of the comfortable choice. Hey, speaking of, hey, let's not talk about other people like that. But then if it is really affecting you, like, there's kind of a trajectory mark that you can go on. You don't have to jump all the way over here instantly, but there's a way that you can kind of work to that. But one of the other things I want to hit on is I think there's some things up here that people don't quite know about you. And so Ella is very humble. You can't say that, otherwise people are like, you can't say to yourself that you're humble. But she was a leader here at Preston Trail for a long time. She was also a 4-time starter on her varsity softball team in high school, 4-time captain for this team as well. So held a lot of leadership positions here at the church, a captain on your team. What type of leader did you aspire to be?
I knew going into those positions that I did not want to be the leader that I got up there, put themselves on a pedestal, bossed everyone around, that leader that you may have in church, on your team, in school, that you go, I don't want to be in their group, they're so mean, they're so rude, they're so bossy. So for me, going into those roles, I was like, I want to be a leader that serves. I am here to serve my team, serve my girls, serve the people I am leading. And for me, in softball, that could look like when the new batch of underclassmen come in, instead of being like, go rake the field, go do this, go do that, go do that. It was, okay, hey, come with me. Let me teach you how to do this, show you how it's done. We're gonna do it together. And then you'll learn, I'll learn, and it'll all be much better than me ordering you around.
I think that's so important, because I think so many of us aspire, we want to be leaders, and we want to be great leaders, right? But it shouldn't come from a place of aspiring to have control over other people. You're able to call the shots, like, you do this, you don't do this, or things like that. But your approach to leadership of looking at it as an opportunity to really serve the people that you have the opportunity to lead. And I think that, again, kind of speaks to this humility that we've been talking about a little bit so far. But kind of on that note, right, because this kind of last of our conversation, we talked a lot about like what it's been like to experience judgment, how to not fall into the temptation to be a part of that, but then really choosing this posture of humility through those conversations, being a humble leader and stuff like that. So when it comes to this conversation around judgment and humility, how would you want to encourage the people here listening to you and your journey through this?
I would say it's a process. You're not gonna wake up and overnight you've become the most humble person on earth, or you're not gonna have those thoughts of judgment anymore. So it's a process. Give yourself grace, give yourself time to make that change. It can start with you start recognizing. That is the first step, is to go, oh, maybe what I am doing isn't the best thing I should be doing. Maybe I am being harsh, maybe I am judging. And that's the first step. Catch yourself. And then after that, maybe reframe your thought. Like, if a thought popped in my head and I was like, Cody, those shoes, what are we doing? Like, that's not it. Then I go, well, his camo's really cool. Camo from the High Def merch store, just a little plug.
Just a little plug.
But like, oh, his sweatshirt's really cool, love that. That's reframing that thought. Or if it's a little more personal, a little more about that person, if I'm going, oh, that girl who's talking over there, like, I don't really like her, I don't really like what she's saying, but oh, she's really making her friends laugh, and they're having a good time, and she's bringing light to their days. That's an example of reframing that thought.
I love that. And reframing is kind of like a synonym of rebrand as well. It's also plug the theme of hide up there. But I love that because the other thing that you were saying is recognizing it. But then also when you catch yourself maybe having that negative thought about somebody else, reframing or rebranding it, like you're saying, to find something positive.
Yes.
To recognize that, maybe, hey, I don't know fully what's going on. I fully don't know their story and what they're navigating in life. So choosing, instead of to have that negative thought, replace it with a positive one. I think that really helps get to do that well. But man, we're so grateful for Ella. We all give it up for her as she's up here getting to talk with you about her journey and stuff like that.